South is widely regarded as the optimal orientation for solar panels. If you have a south-facing roof, it's likely the best starting point for a new system, but limited space on a south-facing roof needn't restrict your system. There's a world of opportunities when considering multi-orientation setups. In this video, I'm going to explain some of the advantages. Let's start by getting some baseline expected generation data for a south-facing system. Let's say for this example 4 kilowatts on a 40-degree gradient with no shade and near my local area, so let's say in the region of Coventry, West Midlands. In that example, you might expect to achieve generation of 3,713 kilowatt hours per year. Next, we're going to go back into the PV Watts database and just change one value, the orientation. So for an east-facing system, you might expect 2,863 per year. For west, it's 2,940, and for north, it's 1,802. While these are ballpark figures based on historic weather data, not to be taken as a promise of performance, it gives us a good picture of how proportional performance varies across orientations. Here they are again in graph format, showing a direct comparison as a percentage of expected output. South is the optimal. East would achieve roughly in the region of 77%, 79% for west, and 48.5% for north. With that in mind, here is a demonstration using Heatable's roof drawing utility on their website, which allows users to quickly get a quote. I found a random house within the area previously mentioned. That property has a near perfect south-facing roof. The utility told me I could fit 6 panels on that space. It also allows customization. In this instance, let's compare this with a system twice the size. So I also added 6 panels to the north side, which we know is the least effective. But take note of the price difference, at around 2,000 between them. The system cost is surprisingly close. So let's take a closer look at what's on offer. You could have 6 panels on the south side only, or you could have 12 panels in total, 6 on the south side, and then an additional 6 on the north side. We know that the price difference is in the region of £2,000, which equates to around about 28%. But we also know that the north-facing side should have around about 48% of the total generation over the course of the year, as what the south-facing side does, which means that for the extra 28% price increase, you could have 48.5% extra generation, which sounds pretty good. And this is actually quite typical across a lot of installers, because they need to factor into every job, regardless of how many panels they're installing, labour costs, scaffolding, organisation, and then aftercare. The panels themselves are not the biggest cost of an install. So therefore, it's typical that larger systems tend to be much better value. Financially, it starts to make sense to consider your whole roof space, not just the optimal south-facing side. Utilising additional aspects maximises the available surface area. More surface area means more output. So I've got a great example of this on my own house. I have a south-facing aspect which has 12 panels, but I've also added 5 to the east, 5 to the west, and 2 to the north that you can see in this picture. But I've gone one step further, and I have also utilised my garage roof, which has a further 4 south-facing and a further 4 north-facing. Using a variety of orientations means we can achieve longer effective generation windows. To prove this, let's examine a case study from 8 AM on July the 10th. Here are 3 diagrams. On the left is total system generation across all panels as recorded by the Powerwall. We can see 4.6 kilowatt hours have already been generated, with around 3.1 kilowatts currently being generated. In the middle is a south-facing 12-panel system. We can see this system has contributed just under half a kilowatt hour in total, and is currently generating around half a kilowatt. That's a small fraction of the total generation. This is due to the fact that the south-facing array isn't having a notable amount of direct sunlight at this early stage in the day. Finally, the diagram on the right shows the source of the remaining generation up to this point in the day. It's the east-facing panels which have really excelled so far. followed by the north-facing panels. Although the north-facing garage panels, labelled as front garage, are somewhat shaded by the house, they still outperform the 4 south-facing garage panels shown just above them. So this demonstrates how, despite south being optimal over the course of a year, they're not going to be the most effective at every point in every day, hence where the other orientations can really add some value. So rather than taking just a snapshot in time, 8 AM, let's look at the whole day then, and let's compare what the south-facing side, those 12 panels, have done versus everything else, or all this other mixture of orientations. It was a very hot, sunny day with very few clouds, as you can probably see by this graph. But you'll notice that particularly early morning, there's pretty huge generation there from the other panels. Anything up to, well, before 8ish, 8 AM, the south-facing side just doesn't really get going when those east-facing panels and the north-facing panels even are doing surprisingly well. Around about midday, or in this case probably 1 to 2ish, there's obviously maximum power coming from the south side, and a good chunk coming from everywhere else. But it tends to be either sides of the day where you feel the benefit of other orientations, particularly in the morning, because we're not quite south facing. We are 195 azimuth, which is probably halfway towards southwest. But also another key advantage is that you can have some comfort in knowing that you're never going to miss any sun if you've got panels facing in all different directions. So some days, for example, they have pretty short periods of sunshine. Having multiple panels on different orientations, that means that the chances of being in direct sun is going to be much higher. So take this example here. It may be sunny first thing in the morning, 5 AM, 6 AM, 7 AM, and it becomes a bit cloudy mid-morning, and then you end up getting rain kind of early afternoon, but then in the evening it gets sunny again. In that instance, the north-facing panels will do a little bit. The east and the west will really carry the system during the day. The south-facing panels, although they are optimal over the year, they're just on that particular day, in that example, they're not going to have the opportunity to perform at their best. Here is another case study which really nicely proves the concept of never missing out on any sun. This is from the 2nd of July, which has a very cloudy morning. It was quite dark, but a really nice sunny afternoon, as you can see from the diagram on the right, which shows the generation throughout the day. Now, looking at where this generation came from, it's the west-facing panels that did the best. They actually outperformed the south-facing panels, and naturally the east-facing panels didn't do so well due to the lack of sun in the morning. Here are a couple of other notable points worth considering. So the orientation becomes less relevant in overcast and wet conditions, the kind of days where you look up at the sky and you think, where is the sun? I really can't tell. And if you can't tell, the solar panels can't tell either. They'll be getting pretty much exactly the same amount of light regardless of the orientation. Conversely, seasonal variance will have a lot more effect on the east, west and north aspects due to the reduced daylight hours. They'll be more effective in the summer months when the days are longer, but much less effective in the winter months. So that's worth bearing in mind. When designing a system over multiple orientations, there can be a few technical challenges to consider. Most string inverters have something called a MPPT, which is short for Maximum Power Point Tracker. Typically, these are unique per string. Their purpose is to balance out the voltages between the different panels within the string to result in the best possible output. But its job is made more difficult when the string consists of panels over multiple orientations, because the voltages won't typically be a perfect match. As such, it's typically best to have a unique string per orientation, so the MPPTs can be most effective. One potential restriction here is strings with 3 or less panels might struggle to achieve startup voltage in darker scenarios, resulting in little or no generation in those particular instances. This issue can be sidestepped by using optimizers or even microinverters to increase the flexibility of the system design. In many cases, a quality designer can advise on what the most effective and cost-effective solutions can be for your given situation. On that note, I do have referral discount links in the description for up to £250 off a solar installation or £150 off a battery installation through Heatable. Heatable installed much of my multi-orientation setup, and you only need to watch my monthly generation videos to see how effectively they function. Let me know in the comment section if you have a multi-orientation solar setup, or would you consider upgrading to one? I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions about my own setup or anything covered in this video today, let me know and I'll do my best to give an accurate answer. If you have enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, as it really helps recommend my content to others who may also find it beneficial. Finally, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this or follow my own renewable energy journey. And of course, a big thank you to all my existing subscribers. I really appreciate your support. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.